Hello, 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 and very warm welcome to Ask the Accountant Watch Series, and this is the MTD version of our Watch Series. So welcome to MTD Watch, your real-world guide to making tax digital, powered by Ask the Accountant Network. This is a show where we cut through the noise and dive into what MTD really means for your practice, from pricing and preparation to the tools that are helping firms get ahead. I'm your host, Sam Patrick, aka the QuickBooks Chat, and joining me today are two of the sharpest minds in MTD strategy. We have hashtag Audit Amy, co-host of the QuickBooks Lab podcast, and obviously hashtag Audit Amy. Amy, how are you doing?
I'm good today. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to this one. We've got a very interesting news topic that I'm looking forward to going for.
Yeah.
And of course, we wouldn't be MTD Watch without the wonderful Suzannah. Suzannah, an MICB bookkeeper and MTD specialist. Suzannah, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Evan.
That's what we love to hear. In the series, we'll be unpacking the true cost of MTD readiness and exposing the common pitfalls and grilling the software vendors on what's working and even dive into what isn't. We're broadcasting live across LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, others as well. I think there's a Twitch stream as well going on, and this episode will be available on demand on all your major podcasting platforms. Be sure to follow, subscribe, and don't miss a moment of the new series. And if you're watching live, drop your questions and curveballs in the chat. Let's keep us honest. So is your firm ready for MTD ITSA? Let's find out. Now, we'll quickly go through the comments, but even exciting in the comments, we have some feedback to cover as well. So Dave said, good morning, Dave. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully enjoying the sunny London. And Kirsty, we're not in March. I really need to get one of those things where I can do my but no, Kirsty says it's sunny in March, the place, not the date, and going from there. So hopefully you're doing it. And Dave, it's an amazing start of music. It's very jazzy inspired, and I'm sure there'll be loads more comments going through. And if you've got comments, stick them in there. We can bring them up on screen just like we've gone through just then. But if you're listening at a later date, then don't forget that you can use our LinkedIn comments area, and you can leave us some feedback. Two pieces of feedback to cover. Susie says, I would love to discuss on MTD series options for those with multiple income sources who clearly won't want multiple software fees, and managing rental feedback on length. And feedback on length, 45 minutes. Now, before we go through that one, in fact, if you don't mind, we'll cover that bit in the question area at the end, and we'll make sure we come back to it. So you two, if you kind of have a think about how you're going to answer that one, we'll come back to it in a moment. Because the other one from John H says, read the length of the show. I think you should aim for the hour. My commute is 30 minutes each way, so an hour is perfect. Now, John, Susie, thank you so much for your feedback. The timing of this is always going to be a contentious point. I'm going to say this. I don't think we're ever going to commit to an hour. I think what we're going to commit to is at least half an hour for everyone. And if it goes over longer, it goes over longer. I think that's the fairest way of doing it. Putting from that. Everyone happy with that? Happy with that decision?
Yeah, I mean, we went over half an hour last week. We could quite easily go over half an hour. Our probably businesses wouldn't like us going to the hour necessarily. We've got to do some preparation too. So yeah, good balance there.
Exactly. So thank you for the feedback. Duly noted. And Susie, we will come back to your question at the end in the Q&A section. All right, then let's get to some news, some hard-hitting news in the world of making tax digital. And of course, we couldn't be a making tax digital one if we didn't talk about the fact that the corporation tax and partnership, well, partnership hasn't been scrapped, right? But the corporation tax has been scrapped, and there's been another further delay on partnership. If I was able to take a magic wand and decide where I wanted making tax digital, I was thinking corporation was the better of the ones to bring it in. Am I being mad here? Only because most of them are going to already be on software because of VAT and MTD and everything else. I feel like for a corporation one, the easiest way would be to try and make the VAT submission also a MTD submission.
Have it all in one. That would work, wouldn't it?
And have it like that. Yeah. Suzanne, I know you don't do corporation, but you do partnerships, is that right?
I don't really know. I haven't done partnerships before.
I
would take them on and I'd have to read up and everything, but I haven't got any partnerships at the moment. So yeah, I probably can't answer that one very well for you. But I think definitely, I'm surprised that they've scrapped the corporation tax one. It would make, like you say, most things are already in place for that, and I know you're just going to have that just those ones that are under, those limited companies who are under the VAT registration threshold that are now not going to be in MTD at all by the look of it.
Exactly.
So that does seem a bit strange when you're looking at in a few years' time, we're going to have sole traders or people with property income of 20,000. They're going to be brought in, but those limited companies up to 90,000 who aren't VAT registered aren't going to be in it. So that does seem a bit strange to me.
And I know they've said, as I say, HMRC have said, don't worry about it. We hear what you're saying, because the biggest issue I have about this is suddenly we're going to have a 2-tier system for our clients. There's going to be the ASA clients, agent services account clients. So to register them, we have to go through this funky way of sending them a URL code and link and having to connect through there, and then we don't get quite as much information in there and blah blah blah, but then we get some other information, so it's all weird. Or we've got the old system where we've got to send them that 648 code through the post, and that comes back to us, and we like just having 2 different portals to access your client, right? And now we don't have that corporate MTD corporation tax date of going, right, this is where they're all going to move over. Aren't we fearful that that's just going to stay into perpetuity? Like that will just be they'll just put a plaster over it every now and again. What do you think, Amy?
I think, well, corporation tax would have been the limited companies would have been the easiest thing to do outside all of this. Most of them are already on software compared to sole traders. I know, talking from my experience, most of my limited companies are already on software. VAT registered, I'd say probably 70% of my limited companies are VAT registered. So they're already doing quarterly. That information is there. If we're pressing another button, it would be good. It would have been an easy win if we were going back a couple of years. Even now, it would have been an easy win. Partnerships would group them in with the sole traders, to be honest. I do have a couple of partnerships. They're very much manual Excel spreadsheets like my sole traders are. So they're going to be in the same boat, basically, as the sole traders. The agent account and the agent services account, whenever I take someone on, having to explain the differences between them. And right, well, you've got a sole trader, you've got to go agent account to get the information about payments on account, blah, blah, blah. Agent services account, income tax record anyway. And then it's going to be another thing, the confusion. Most of my limited companies are VAT. So I'm already used to going into corporation tax for one and VAT for the other. So, it's not going to make any difference on that front. I was quite surprised because I thought once they had the tools in place for the sole trader, I mean, again, I'm not a techie person, coding, all that jazz. But I would have thought once you got it in with the sole trader, which was the harder one, I would have thought corporation tax would fall through. But maybe I've completely misunderstood what goes on in the background. Or maybe they're anticipating issues with this, or maybe they want to get payments in. Who knows? I'm crystal ball. Who knows?
It's just frustrating, isn't it? Because I don't know if this will be as bad as what you remember. Maybe you don't remember back in the day where you had that 0 band for corporation tax, and suddenly everyone is a limited company. Like it was just the done thing to do, right? Now we're almost creating that, like, because if you don't want to go through having to do quarterly returns, we're just creating.
I did wonder about that, whether people are going to decide to incorporate unnecessarily without looking at the bigger picture, just to kind of take themselves out of MTD, which would be very short-sighted, really. But you can see it happening.
Because
it is happening. It is happening.
Companies down to get them out of it, right? Like, there's you have to have a real reason to become a limited company, right? And there's so much more red tape to be there. It's so much more expensive if you get it wrong, etc., etc., etc. I feel like we're just forcing some people just to go into it and do it from there. But it's done.
I have heard of it happening. There are some accountants and bookkeepers out there that are suggesting the move to limited company, and I think actually, like, you've got to explain it all. It's not just an MTD thing. Like, we've always had the limited company versus sole trader thing anyway, and it's not one size fits all. Exactly. Even if we were looking at profit thresholds. So, now we've got the better one than the other, all the way up to like 100 grand and beyond. So, to simply incorporate just to avoid MTD, it's not going to work for everyone.
No.
It's
Seems
not.
like that's right. Dave says the topic is very interesting, so it'll be longer as questions come. Yeah, exactly right. We'll try. We'll make a thing for our listeners that we try not to just take up more of their time than we should do. AdSum will help. That's a great point there, Kirsty.
Yeah.
But isn't AdSum reliant on MTD to get that really good data? You think about how much more data it can bring in from the MTD VAT world and the MTD income tax it world, compared to if it goes back to the old solution, you can't get as much. I've seen software that does like that old screen scraping technology, which we don't want to get involved in, where it's creates issues in terms of like data and all that sort of stuff. I was playing around with ChatGPT agents, right, going in and collecting those payments on accounts.
Wow.
Having to go doing like that. Yeah, I can make it work, but it's not like that doesn't feel like that's the solution we want. And Kirsty's right, like AdSum is a great tool, but it needs MTD to really realize it. Just so we don't miss it. And unfortunately, sorry, no expense, I can't bring it in. You're on Instagram at the moment. Transition should only be if it's the best interest of the client, not just an admin process for reporting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly like that. Julie there for that one. So nice to see you joining in on the Instagram one. Okay. Maybe we'll come back to it another point, this particular topic. I'm disappointed in this. I feel like it's one of those where sometimes you got to think about, we've just got to take that plaster off and we've just got to accept it, right? We've got to accept income tax for sole trader. Like, that's got to happen. So corporation tax one, it just felt like one. And again, if we could have incorporated it in the VAT, I feel like the pain.
I don't know why they didn't just put it back, perhaps, rather than just to announce it's scrapped. They didn't have to commit to a date or anything yet. They could have got, make sure we've got the income tax part of it working properly and then move on to it. But by scrapping it, it kind of, I don't know, I felt like it undermines the whole thing a little bit.
It breaks it all, doesn't it? Yeah. The software company's happy, right? Because it would be a massive undertaking for them. But yeah. Speaking of MTD and topic of the show, Tots was making tax digital. Are you ready? And we're going to go down this as the what, the when, and the why. Suzannah, you can start us off with the what.
The what? Okay, so basically, this is going to be the biggest kind of shake-up certainly for personal tax, since the self-assessment tax return was introduced in whenever it was, back in was it the early 90s, I think?
Yeah.
Certainly before I was in practice, I'd like to stress. But yeah, so it's the basically the crux of it, and I'm sure everybody already knows this already, but the crux of it is that sole traders and those with income from property above certain thresholds, which Amy will talk about in a minute, are going to have to do quarterly filing 4 times a year through digital software, as well as what is now being branded as an MTD tax return, which is going to be in place of the current self-assessment tax return. So it's a massive change, because not only are all those shoebox clients going to have to get themselves onto software or at a push spreadsheets and bridging software, but it's the whole process that's changing, moving them from doing it annually, where they're doing it the 31st of Jan after the end of the tax year, to the quarterly returns. So the whole process changes.
Love that. Very concise. Amy, when are we going to see these changes come into play?
So the first threshold is your combined self-employment and property income of £50,000 from the 6th of April 2026. Yay! Oh, it's the 6th of August today. Okay. I just kicked with that. So yeah, not far at all. So it's £50,000 for the 6th of April 2026.
Based on your tax year?
Self-employment. Yep, tax year 24-25.
Yeah.
So the ones that we're currently doing, or hopefully have done already, we'll come back to keeping track of all of that. From 6th of April 2027 will be those over £30,000, and then the following year, 6th of April 2028, is those over £20,000. There'll be individual submissions for self-assessment and property. Hence, we'll come back to the question that we had earlier. And these submissions will need to be done through software, which we will all go through as part of this series.
And also, just to say, the 30k turnover, that is going to be based on the current tax year, so the 25-26. So if you've got clients now, you know, they might not have been 30k last year, but they may well be this year. And again, 26-27, that tax return will bring people with 20k and over in for the 28. Yeah, to really think it through. You'll get so confused.
And that's the issue, right? Because it's not just a one and done thing. We've got this moving target. It's going to go. And at what point are they going to tell us the next? Yeah, because surely at some point you can't just stay at the 20,000 and above, right? Like that's not sustainable. Am I right in thinking that?
Not in this day and age, no.
Otherwise, people will just get to the 20,000, or they'll get to 19,999.
I know, and they'll still stunt their growth like they do with that sometimes, which is just counterproductive. But people, the amount of times I have conversations about that, saying, "No, it's just a percentage, so you're still worth trying to grow." I mean, originally they were talking about 10k, weren't they? When MTD was first discussed. I don't know if it should be below the personal threshold. Personal tax allowance. It's
relevant though.
I don't know, but if you're forcing someone to go onto software and pay the costs and potentially pay a bookkeeper or an accountant to help them with that, and yet they don't even owe any tax, I don't know.
I can see that.
Yeah.
But doesn't that mean that we're just going to have this two-tier approach forever then?
Possibly. I don't know what the answer is.
MTD versus non-MTD, or what do we call the old one? Is it old guard versus MTD, old guard versus new guard? I don't know. Like we've got to come up with names, right? Of just internally for our team of going, right, well, that client's on the old guard system, this client's on the new one, or this one's got a mixture of the both. I don't know. It's going to be tricky, isn't it?
At some point, everyone's going to have to keep track as they're going through, because we're going to have to know when we go over. Exactly like the VAT threshold. It's a little bit easier because with the VAT threshold being 90, most people are on software at that point. But if we're going down to these levels, 20,000, 12,000, whatever we're doing, a lot of it is side hustles for people, and they're not. You know, if they're on if they're £10,000, they're not going to be keeping an eye necessarily.
No.
When they're going over, even at the 19, they're not necessarily going to know. We'll get to the end of the year, and then we're not doing their tax return straight away because they're
not doing it till the end of Jan. They're going to have 3 months potentially to get ready.
Yeah,
the whole new way of working, and you've got to catch up on the previous year at the same time.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. It just causes complication, doesn't it? That yeah. I was tasked with the why. Why is this coming into play? There's a lot of reasons why. Political we'll stay away from. But I wanted to keep this as a positive side of things. So in some circumstances, the why is going to be actually a good thing for you as a practice, because in some circumstances, you're actually going to get a better margin on some of your clients, right? I know we're talking about, and there's definitely an argument and a conversation when we come to pricing in later down the line, that we are going to lose out on certain clients. We're just going to eat it on certain clients. There's going to be all those conversations, right? There are some clients where actually them being forced to have a bit of software actually going to be beneficial for us, right? We're going to have better margins for the first time ever. We might even break even on certain clients. I'm sure we've all got those legacy clients where, you know, they bring in that shoebox and we just go through and, you know, spend our night going through them. Software should help with that one. I think it's a real good reason for seeing the innovation in the industry. We've seen some really good software innovations come over this. You know, QuickBooks brought a whole new SKU out for us called QuickBooks Sole Trader, which we'll come to at some point. that wouldn't exist if it weren't for MTD, right? Like we're lucky to have that as a thing come through. And I think the why that you want to talk to your clients about is just that simplicity of things like late payments and stuff. The amount of times I've gone to a client at the end of a tax year or done a set of accounts and said, I assume that these are bad debts I need to write off. I assume you're not looking, you're looking to chase them. And they've turned around to me and gone, I didn't even know they were still outstanding.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like having software to give them that prompt, to let them have a place where they can find that sort of stuff. Late payments is horrible for our small businesses at the moment. Like it's constantly in the news. It's constantly an issue that I know a lot of people are rallying around to solve. But sometimes just knowing that there's a debt in the first place is the biggest issue, right? And forcing them on software will help them eradicate that. Hopefully we can have better solutions in the future going forward. And I think the elephant in the room, which has never been discussed yet, but is definitely a why, is at some point, surely they're going to come to quarterly payments as well as quarterly submissions. Some people are really against it. Some people are really for it. I'm kind of for it for a lot of our clients. I think a lot of our clients will actually much prefer just knowing where they sit than having to wait for and worry about what that final bill is going to be and having to pay that big chunk. So yeah, I think that's for me where this kind of comes from. It's digitalization. It's trying to bring us into that idea. The idea we should have more real-time information on these small businesses going forward. We can do better for them. I'd imagine at some point lending decisions are going to be better because they'll have access to that data as well. That's where I see the positives going through. Is there any other positives I've missed or any whys?
Yeah, I can think of another one. Well, supposedly it will help us better with spreading the workload across the year. Because we're not going to necessarily have so many last minute people coming to us. We're still going to have, I think, a struggle in that filing month, because we've really got to encourage people to try and do monthly bookkeeping, I think, because even quarterly, unless you're tiny, if we're doing them quarterly and they all come to us sort of the week after the end of the quarter, and that's going to coincide with all our VAT clients as well for all our VAT quarters, it's just going to be a bit of a headache, isn't it? But we won't, hopefully. But I think as time goes on, if we can spread it throughout the year, we won't hopefully all be working all through Christmas, trying to get those, that before the January rush. It should alleviate that to a degree, I would hope.
100%. So to be devil's advocate,
that's way off, because we're going to. I think while we've got the threshold implementations, I think it's still going to be painful for a few years. But once we're past that, hopefully.
And devil's advocate, to throw back at you, would you want then MTD to start covering things like dividends because when I think of my client base, a lot of them, it is not necessarily that that when it comes to the tax returns and everything else, it is mainly those dividends and your owner managed businesses and their requirement to bill from there. So would you want to see MTD covering dividends as well at one point? And do we want to be declaring them quarterly and getting that done?
I think we've got to get this. We've got to get this part of it under our belts.
I want to give them ideas.
I think that a lot of my clients, most of their problems is the personal tax. With when they have the limited companies, they can see their profit. With the corporation tax, yes, okay, the dividends might be classed as director's loan account, and then we do dividends at the end of the year, but we can see what they're taking. So they can do their corporation tax pots, they can do their VAT pots, they can do their PAYE pots if they're quarterly. Personal tax is a lot more difficult, and a lot of people forget the fact that the personal tax is their own personal liability, and they don't have the pots to put aside. They don't have the money to put aside. So then when the bill comes, when they give you all the records in December, they haven't got the money there. So although, like I said, payments not been mentioned, I mean, it naturally seems like the next step, however many years down the line. If people are getting into that real-time habit of putting the money aside, like the limited companies are already doing, I mean, the introduction of pots from all these bank accounts has helped people plan their money better. So they want to bring it into their personal lives. That's what I'm finding with clients. I mean, obviously, I mentioned last week, a lot of my clients still need to get business bank accounts, but I'm encouraging them to go and look at the app ones that have the pots. How we're going to bookkeep for them is another issue. And I know Aaron's done YouTube videos about that before. But actually, the positive is the taking the stress away of the tax liability. Yes, the lending in the future or whatnot, but I'm thinking to my portfolio, and a lot of my clients are kind of around that 50,000. They're on their own. They don't have a lot of employees or anything. So the lending they're not really growing too significantly. So the lending doesn't really factor. I don't get many sole traders that are coming to me going, oh, I need this big loan. So actually it's more in the planning, the tax liability side, that is the real positive. Obviously got a lot of CIS contractors that I've spoken about before, subcontractors. Does that mean they get their refunds quarterly?
Oh, do you reckon they could bring that in? I mean, that seems like a big...
I mean, they're going to report it if they want payments quarterly in the future, surely. I mean, you're going to have 30, 40, 50 days between to get them. But
the other thing that worries me about if they do change the payments and start wanting quarterly payments is how that's going to affect seasonal businesses. And what about those businesses who, if we're reporting at the end of a quarter, just 4 or 5 weeks after the end of a quarter, they might not have had all their invoices paid at that point that they've got to pay the tax on. So I think that's, whilst I agree with you, I think people have to remember when they're not being asked for the tax in advance, because people do get confused with that still with the payments on account, but they might be getting it in advance of not having earned it, but actually receiving payment from their customers. And like I say, if they're a seasonal business, they might have 1 or 2 really busy quarters followed by quiet ones in the winter, say. And how will that work? Because then they'll have overpaid, but they need that money to keep them going in the winter. So I don't know. Maybe if it was optional, I don't know. I don't see HMRC making it optional, but they're still maintaining they're not going to change anything at the moment with payments.
There's got to be changes on the horizon. Is MTD though not cash basis by default? Is it not? Have I made that up? I thought, and tell us in the comment if I'm completely making this up, or give us a feedback if I am. But I thought it was a cash basis reporting that we get to put through from MTD. So that should help, right? That should be
I think so.
I think most people are going to be reporting on the cash basis anyway, because they're going to, even if it wasn't, because you're going to be doing it from your bank account. You aren't going to get many people that haven't been doing the bills and things. They're going to be doing it from the bank account anyway. But then you're encouraging them to do invoices.
Encouraging them to do invoices, and don't forget, if they're a landlord with property income over 150k, they can't be on cash basis.
This is true.
And I do have some that fall into that category. So,
or is it going to be that their MTD's allowed to be cash basis, but their status?
We don't know this yet. This is all. It's when you start talking about it, you realise it sometimes brings up even more questions, doesn't it?
Imagine they're VAT registered as well, and they've got standard VAT for one and cash for the other, and as Kirsty says here, do you think that clients really know it's income, not profit? Exactly. Well, hopefully, maybe I'm being over thinking here, but hopefully having that extra contact with client, having that, force them onto software, not using their Excel spreadsheet or just putting stuff into a box for you. Hopefully they'll.
I think my clients know, because I've told them and I've made it very, very clear. But if they are not a client, if they're, there's going to be a hell of a lot of people brought into this who do not use a bookkeeper or an accountant at the moment and file their own tax return. And even if they've heard about MTD, you're right. There's a real confusion between people who hear income and they think that's what they're reporting on their tax return in terms of profit. And it's not. We're talking about turnover here.
So before we move on to our Q&A section, the two questions I want to put out to you, and it's related to the fact that how are we going to deal with it? What we've done to prep is what I called it. So the first one, and I want to know your opinions on this one, because ICAW and all the other things haven't come to a decision on this, but we're going to be doing work for our clients. We're going to be submitting these quarterly returns and quarterly updates for our clients, right? We're all a little bit apprehensive about the extra work that's involved. We're all a little bit kind of trying to figure out how that's going to do. Our controls are in place, all that sort of stuff. Again, we'll talk about pricing at some other point, but there's going to be price involved, and we're going to figure out how to pass that to our clients. My biggest question I keep coming back to is, I was in an MTD panel with HMRC about 3 months ago, and they said there is no requirement their end for us as the accountant to get our clients to sign those quarterly updates before we submit them. Now, that doesn't sit right with me. And I'm happy to go with that if that's what everyone else is going to do. But I would have thought that your practice certificates, your accounting bodies, would probably have a different opinion on that. I don't know if ICB's decided yet what they're going to do. I don't know if ICAW said they're kind of going to follow HMRC's, which I was really shocked about. But obviously that could change. But what would you guys do? Are you going to be getting that signature before you submit?
I'm at least going to get it confirmed in writing. Yeah, even if it's an email, me saying your quarter's ready to file. This is these are the figures I'm reporting. Can you confirm that you agree with this? And there's nothing that you haven't told me about or whatever. I think or at least at the very minimum, something in writing from them confirming yes, go ahead and submit. But yeah, I would like to be doing it in the same way that I do my VAT returns, and actually having an electronic signature on them.
So ACCA have issued their template engagement letter for MTD, and it talks about your responsibilities and the fact that you're legally responsible for this, responsible for preparing and submitting. So in my eyes, they need to. They talked about approval. It can't negate. You can't delegate legal responsibility. No. We know this from everything else that we do. So, we get our VAT returns approved. We get our year-end accounts approved, corporation tax returns, personal. Why would we not get these approved? I've been in a position like many of us where something's been submitted and they're like, oh no, I didn't approve that. I'm like, here it is. Yeah. Because it doesn't necessarily go the client's way. Yeah. And I think particularly we're dealing with a lot of people that haven't been recording quarterly. We're going to be in a position where we're chasing our tail. Suzannah seems way ahead of me. I still get people to get business bank accounts. So it's going to be up to the wire. I'm going to be that June deadline. So July is going to be crazy for me. But no, I definitely want them to sign. There's so many different ways. You DocuSign, e-sign, all that kind of stuff. It's not going to take a lot. And I getting these engagement letters out and getting those signed. So why not the actual return? Well, not return, submission. Is we calling it return? Yeah. No, it's
quarterly return. Quarterly submission. Yeah.
I suppose it's a question of what does the software give us to send over, because we all know what a VAT return is. And I don't know, maybe we go over the top, but we never just send the VAT return. We always put the supporting document.
All the reports, everything.
Yeah.
We'd be doing the same here. And then my follow-on question to that is, what are you guys going to do in terms of how much tax and things are you going to do for each one of these? Because we're back to, there's not going to be too much meat on the bone. Like, are we just going to do a sense check and send it over to signature and submit, or every quarter we're going to do balance and checks? No, we get, because that's what we want to do, right? That's how. Yeah. And our nature of accountants and bookkeepers and business advisors is we go and do all that. We go put all that in place, and like Suzanne, like you said, like at the end of the year, we should have a much cleaner set of accounts to do, and we should reap all the rewards at the end of the year, right? Like that's what we want to do.
I hope so.
Can we do that? Have we got the capacity? Is there even a chance for us to do that? What are you guys?
Sorry. I think we were that's where the pricing bit comes in. But obviously, I'm an auditor. I like to go to the nth degree. I do predominantly. I use QuickBooks. That VAT error check is essential on every single one. I'm not necessarily, if people are doing their own bookkeeping, I'm not necessarily going to go into every single transaction. Like, I'm not doing an audit. I'm going to use the same tack that I use as a VAT return. I'm going to do an error check. I'm going to see the duplicates. Are there things, suppliers that are perhaps Zenon or an expert to plug in to then go, okay, is there anything duplicates or the wrong code or wrong VAT code usually, but, wrong HMRC category, something like that. I mean, obviously, if you're doing it yourself, you're going to be doing it on a regular basis. I've taken Suzanna's advice on saying to clients, if you're going to do it yourself, but then you mess up and do it, and I have to do it, you're getting a penalty charge, because it's going to be so busy in our July, October, January, so it will be a check like I would do a VAT return. I'm treating it very much like that. Send everything to them for signing. And at the moment, I don't send it through the software. I export it and then get it e-signed through Engager, or I use TaxCalc as well. So I think there will be checks, but I will probably end up going too far initially just because it's my nature, and I will probably lose money up front. But hopefully, if I'm doing that, end of year, much smoother, much easier. Yeah.
And I'm on the same vein as Amy. Bookkeepers, we like the detail. So I don't have very many that do their own bookkeeping, and the ones that do, I already do a quarterly checking service for them, even now before MTD, just to make sure that it's going to be all correct as the year sort of progresses. So I will do like a Xenon Connect check. I will then do like a bank, make sure all the banks are reconciled and check the statement balances. I will check for those that do their sales invoices outside of the software. That's always really important to check you've got every sequential number, because that I've got a client who constantly forgets to send me some, and you just need to check you're missing that invoice, so things like that. I will be doing that as well, which I would need to do all of that at year end anyway. So by doing that quarterly, I think that makes sense. No, but you're right. That's going to be something that needs to be built into the fees as well, if it isn't already.
And I know friend of the show, who I'm sure you don't mind me saying this, Charlie will always say how he spoke to HMRC a while ago now. So I'm not 100% sure this is still accurate. He's adamant that this is his approach. He has got confirmation from HMRC that as long as you press submission by the date, and you send something over, and that could just be, the transactions on the bank, for example, then that's all your requirement is. And HMRC are under the impression, or I've told Charlie, that that's all they're looking to do.
Well, I've heard differently about that, because Rebecca Bennyworth did an MTD webinar a couple of months ago, and she specifically said your obligation under MTD, the taxpayer's obligation is to report their income and expenses in full for each quarter. So yes, they will allow for the odd mistake or the odd missing item. That's fine, but that doesn't mean you hear people saying they're going to look like literally put through a couple of things, and then all of a sudden in the last quarter everything will be done, but then that is clearly not fulfilling their tax obligations, so they would be in breach.
I think you're spot on.
MTD follow through and do anything about that, I don't know. But
I wonder if it's less MTD and HMRC and what their requirement is, and more, again, back to our practicing certificates, right? Like, what are our professional bodies going to say? Because they're going to want to have some form of checks.
I mean, I won't be doing that. I wouldn't be accepting that from a client. But people might do it themselves. People who are doing it themselves do. I don't think any other sort of bookkeeper or accountant would be accepting it.
But then it gets interesting, doesn't it? If you take over a client, or our client's been doing their own, because this has been my worry about MTD. I'm more than capable of the clients we've already got. I'm more than happy with that they're all going to be fine. Those new clients that are going to come through the door, like they're the ones that scare me. Like that, you know, they've attempted it themselves and they've lost access to that software or whatever it's going to be, right? Like there's going to be those sort of conversations happening.
Yeah.
And I just feel like they're the ones where we've just got to figure out how you know, as an industry, how we tackle them. You know, do we just submit the next quarter and just go for it, or do we try and true up the last couple of quarters?
We'd have to do a catch up, surely.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're going to need that. You're going to need that anyway for when you know, for the rest of the year. So I think you'd have to do like with anything when you take something over. If you look at it and it turns out, yes, you know, they've told you, yeah, all my bookkeeping's up to date, and then you look and the bank rec is out by 25 grand or whatever.
Yeah,
you've got to go back and do a proper catch up and clean up, and
they have
to do that.
100%. But at least if it's VAT returns, there's these VAT returns that we can go back to, and we have some way of trying to fight it, right?
Yeah.
This, we don't have that, and that's what not thought about, right? And that's where I keep coming back to, is like I just don't understand how we're going to deal with that. Like, what's the process? How we're going to do it, other than just,
I suppose the next quarterly return, because it's done cumulatively, it does overwrite the previous ones. But yeah, you're right. You haven't got really, potentially might not have anything to cross check how far out it was. But
so we would have to potentially go back. Say we get someone come in Q4, we'd have to go back to and effectively check everything from Q1 all the way through, which, you know, it's going to happen. I've spoken to many accountants and bookkeepers, and maybe some are listening, that are thinking, oh, this is too much for me, I'm out. Or they might even be ones that aren't listening now and aren't thinking about it, get to April and gone, oh, I've not spoken to anyone about this. What do I need to do? Oh, you need to change accountants. And what if that goes through the year and you haven't got any submissions? You've got a chance, I'm assuming. But, you know, do we know about the penalties for this yet? If we get someone that in December 26 and they should have been starting in April, you're then got 2 quarters that have not been submitted. You're going to have to go through and make sure you do it.
I would have thought HMRC would have written to them before they've come to you by that point.
Only HMRC know, right?
If HMRC know, but then if they're only going to be brought into MTD on the basis of their tax return that's been filed already. So HMRC should know, because obviously if they're a new business and they haven't traded, they won't be brought in until after they've filed that first tax return, even if they're over the threshold.
But then you're kind of having to build them on one system and then move them over to the other. And then what about if their software's not compatible? So yeah, that's where these sort of we need to, you know, as an industry, we need to be going forward. We're just going to put them on MTD from day one, right? And that's what they're going to do, because chopping and changing, it's not fair on the client, right? Like, it's just going to cause them so much headache. Brilliant. Well, no doubt we'll be coming back to this topic, so keep your eyes and ears peeled. Let's go back to this question though that we had and go to the Q&A section. So just a reminder of what it was. I had the same one in the Pro Advisor Presents yesterday. So I would love to discuss on MTD series options for with multiple income sources, and clearly won't want multiple software fees, and managing rental income coming in net. Oh, there's more. Coming in net and getting the info from estate agents who seem to be behind the game. I would say, first of all, my point on this is I would be dealing this exactly the same as I always have been, where I'm going to be using things like locations and things like that for multiple income stream, when they say income streams here, my mind's going towards multiple properties, especially when you may have different ownership structure on different properties, things like that. I find locations are by far the best. There is dedicated software out there, so definitely have a look at Hancock and things like that, where you can set it all up and it can all go through.
But that can only do property. You can't put your self-employed income on there if you've got that.
And no limited company at the moment, isn't it? It's just purely.
I think they might be bringing out a limited company on Hancock.
On its way, isn't it? Maybe. But that's how I'm going to continue doing it now. Filing wise, unfortunately, the bad news is you will have to have multiple software fees. That's how it's kind of been implemented. There's no easy way around there. but I do know that some of the software ones out there are trying to make it so that you can at least connect different softwares and have them talk to one another, so that they can start bringing data in and being really clever about the way they do that. So all that sort of stuff is kicking those solutions are being kicked down the line, because at the moment software are just concentrating on getting this bit done, getting the submission done. But that's how I'm looking to go through that. And we'll come to the gross up later. But what about you guys? What's your plan for multiple income streams and things like that?
I think with mine is it has to be, we're looking at the solutions now for a landlord with multiple properties. We have got one sorted with free agent. We did look at Hancock as well, but free agent have done that. They only have property now, so we haven't got to look at the self-employment, but you're going to have to, we would have had to have something else. I spoke to that client particularly about it, and he was like, I'm going to have different bank accounts then. And I was like, well, we're fortunate in that a lot of these online on-app banks are free. Yeah. So, we could go through your Tide, your Monzo, your Metal, your Starling, and have multiple ones. Yes, it's going to be confusing, but it will make your life easier on submissions, particularly if people are doing it themselves. I haven't yet had a client that has self-employment and landlord that's being mandated in April 2026, but I do have one for April 2027. Well, I haven't done the 24-25, so there might still be. Let's have a look. So I'm thinking in my head, it has to be 2 separate licenses, because it is 2 separate schedules.
So if I were you for that one, I would do free agent landlord license, and free agent self-employed license.
Yeah. And NatWest and a Metal bank account, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're free with both. So that's my thought process to start with. And I know we're not going into software, but just very quickly, with free agent bringing in the CIS stuff, it makes life a lot easier, because I deal with subcontractors quite a lot. But yeah, at the moment it is looking like the 2 licenses.
Suzannah, what's your...
Well, I've got some landlords who have got a lot of properties, some of which are jointly owned and some of which are just in their own name.
Yeah.
I did try Hancock for them, and I couldn't get it to work in that scenario where I was doing the bookkeeping for that volume. We're talking, there were hundreds of transactions each month that needed paperwork for, and I needed something that would work, that would integrate with the data capture software, even though you can upload it with much with Hancock, much slower and more difficult, and it doesn't do journals, so you can't do accruals and prepayments and stuff like that, which I needed to do for these clients. So I have put those ones on Xero, using locations or whatever they are, projects, or I can't remember what they're called. And doing it like that. I need to get them ideally on the beta testing at some point, so I can see how that works in practice before they're mandated in April. But I'm not there yet. So,
and I don't know if Xero is one of the ones looking at it, but I imagine they are. Hopefully, they'll come up with this idea of multiple licenses, right? So, you're disclosing the top license, and then it just trickles down and file.
Yeah, and I think you can do that, a mapping process to the bit that you're filing to HMRC from within Xero. So I think it will work like that. So you've got the the jointly owned properties and the ones that they own on their own in one license, but just with different tracking categories. But you map them when you submit them, so that it
goes into my own. And this question was asking about avoiding multiple software fees. I just don't see a world where you are. Like, MTD mandates that each income has to come from a different source, etc. Now, what you could do is you could strike it lucky with a particular software that has deals. Like, maybe it's maybe they can do you a deal and you can kind of get them in, or whatever. Or like we've mentioned with free agent, utilizing the Metal Bank and the NatWest Bank and things like that. I think that's going to be the fight.
Yeah.
The only other option that you can do this on is this bridging solution idea that we're definitely going to cover on a different topic. So come back to us on that one, Susie, when we look at bridging, because I think bridging's probably, if you're trying to avoid multiple fees, I think that's going to be the best one. And then finally, just so we've covered it on here, is net, dealing with income going net. Personally on that one, I'm using software like QuickBooks as receipt capture and things like that, where it is slowly but surely starting to learn to do that. So you can put kind of capture it in and put it through from there. But also we're being clever with rules, so we can put it through from there. If there's an integration, put it through from there. And yeah, that's really the way we've done it. There's never been a software yet, and I was hoping Hancock would do this, where you could like upload the estate agent document and go for
statements.
Now, now QuickBooks has a new upload feature, and I've yet to do a estate agent. I think that's on my list to do and test it out. But it'd be great if a software could figure that one out, right? And go there. I know Dex were trying to. That was on their roadmap. I don't know if it's live now or not. I don't know if it is there, but yeah, we kind of need that, don't we, for these MTD?
Yeah.
Ones. Just for the sake, it was fine when it was you had to go through 12, right, and just get them all done at the end of the year and get a set of accounts done. But with the pace of change we're going to need for MTD, we need that simplistic solution to do it now. Anything else on grossing up income?
No, it's just I'm just waiting to see what comes. I mean, I've only got a few landlords, and like I said, this one sorted it out with free agent, but they do the management themselves, so they haven't got to deal with
Same here.
Statements. The ones that do deal with the statements are currently under the 50, so I'll be watching to see what everyone else is doing and then potentially copying them, hopefully. So I'll be watching you two.
Well, we have said we're considering a industry-specific MTD Watch Series episode, so keep an eye out for that one, because landlords will definitely be one of them. Dave says, I'm convincing my prospects to switch to Metal or NatWest Bank account to get free agent. Great idea there, Dave. Great idea. And that it is. So we're going to tease you with a next week's episode, because next week's episode is going to be all around an outsider. An outsider is going to come along and tell us why we're all being numpties and why we should be worried about MTD Malak. And he would actually like to see MTD in his world. So yeah, I'll be from Guernsey on the island, and so will he as well. So we're going to we'll bring Tim. TCS. We're looking forward to that one, and we'll see if there's any news or anything to bring you in from there. Thank you both of you. Where can people find you? Do some plug-in, all that sort of stuff. Who wants to go first?
Okay, you go on then.
You go.
You go after you.
I'm on LinkedIn. #AuditAmy. Also QuickBooks Lab podcast, which went out last week. So watch back on Aaron's YouTube, all of the channels that we've got going. But yeah, you can find me, get my details on LinkedIn and send me a message.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn as well. And I've also got my business Facebook page, Suzannah Whelan Bookkeeping. So you can find me on either of those. And
that's it. Episode number 2 done and dusted. Thank you for both of you. Thank you for coming along. Thank you for all the comments. Oh, we got one last one. To tidily gross up 15 plus residential each month, where it varies if some repairs solution. Yes, please. We will take that away, and we'll find you a solution for you and the rest of the community. Good suggestion there, Kirsty. If you don't mind sticking it in that feedback form for us, then we can complete it in there. Brilliant. Thank you very much, and thank you to you, Dave, as well. Thank you for coming along. So thank you, everybody. Somehow we made it to 54 minutes when we promised only half an hour. But we promise we'll get better at that. Too much news, too much conversation.
Too much chatting.
All done. Thank you, both of you, and we'll see you all same time, same place. Another exciting episode of the Watch Series. So it's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.